What is cruelty? I think of cruelty as falling into three basic kinds. Okay, now most people think of cruelty, and this is why they hate it and don't want to think about it so much, why it's such an unpopular topic. They think of cruelty as sadistic. People are cruel because they want to. What other motivation could persuade you to do something this dreadful except evil desire? Now that desire might be sexual, as in a sexual sadist who kills because he gets a sexual kick out of what he does. I say he because the vast majority of them that we know about are men. Then there are people who might do something just for, excitement or thrills, or because, they can, or whatever. But we think of those people as doing evil things because basically they're evil people. They are people who have these wicked desires and they act on them. Okay. Sadism is a tiny minority of cruelty. It's the stuff that you find in the movies, it's the stuff that you find in the thrillers, but basically it's very, very rare compared with most kinds of cruelty. Most kinds of cruelty are what I call callous. So if you start to think about how somebody becomes cruel, starts with, I've talked about elsewhere about this phenomenon of otherization, whereby you push away the person, you distance yourself from them. You start to become more hostile, you start to abuse them perhaps verbally and then segregate them perhaps socially, ostracism, that sort of thing. All of that is pushing the person away. As you do that, you think of them less as a person like yourself and more as some slightly less than human entity. You think of them in more simplistic terms, you think of them less all over. So you have this sense of them being less deep and complex and interesting and sophisticated than you yourself are. And of course you're the kind of archetypal model for a human being, and everyone else is slightly different from that, and these people just become rather less than human, they become simplified. Callousness is when you do something which is of course foreseeable, and that you're going to harm a person, but you don't care, you're not interested. So for example, the example that I talk about in the book is of a drug addict who mugs an old lady to get money for his next fix. Now, he doesn't actually want, per se, he's not going out there to mug an old lady, because if you left some money lying around on the street, he'd take the money and not mug the old lady. What he wants is the money. Now, he's aware that it's wrong to mug old ladies and that he's going to hurt the old lady, but he hasn't really registered that as being such a problem that it's going to stop him acting. He knows the consequences, he's acting cruelly, but it's callous cruelty. He just is indifferent. Sometimes, if callous cruelty becomes very habitual, and there's a lot of it about and the atmosphere is full of it so that it's sort of more normal, like for example in a gang situation, sometimes cruelty can become useful. That still doesn't mean that the people who are doing it actually want to be cruel, it's just that they find cruelty the most useful way of getting what they happen to want. I think of that as terrorism. Terrorism uses cruelty to send a signal. So very often in a terrorist situation you will get somebody saying, give me the money or I'll blow up the kid, give me the money or I'll shoot the woman, do what I want, release my compadres, whatever it happens to be. If I don't get my goals, then I will commit cruelty. Cruelty becomes a signal, it becomes a useful technique for achieving, you hope, what you want. Occasionally, that association of doing something cruel with getting a reward can lead to those two becoming linked internally. That's when you get sadism. It's when the act of cruelty isn't just a useful tool for achieving something else, it becomes a goal in its own right. That is when you really get extreme pathology. But as I say, it's rare. Not all terrorists are sadists, and most people who are cruel are not even terrorists, let alone sadists. So as the situation becomes more extreme, for example, if you put people into a very intense war situation, you're pushing that spiral and you're making it more likely that you will get people who will use cruelty not only to be callous, which is a feature of all warfare, but also to act in a terroristic and eventually a sadistic way.